Hello students, once again I welcome you all in this new video where we will revise some more points and discuss some more important questions from the first chapter, that is what? Fundamental unit of life, cell. As you know, in the previous video we have started the revision of the very first chapter and we have seen why the cell is considered as the fundamental unit of life, as all the living beings, whether they are unicellular or multicellular, they all are made up of cells, and these cells are going to perform all the metabolic activities which are essential to sustain life, and that's why cells are considered as what? The fundamental unit of life. Then we have discussed there that cellular organization in multicellular organisms, that a group of cells together they are going to form tissues which are performing similar functions, and then these tissues are going to form organs. The collection of organs are going to form organ system, and finally the individual body is formed. So this is known as what? Cellular organization in multicellular organisms. Then we have discussed about the history of cell or the discovery of cell, as we have seen how Robert Hooke discovered cell for the first time in the year 1665. Under his own microscope, he observed there the cork cells of plants, and he also coined the term cell because his observation was similar to the little chambers or little room. And we have seen also that another scientist, Antony von Leeuwenhoek, he discovered the living cell for the first time in pond water, means the living creatures there. And then after we have discussed what? A theory that was proposed by Sliden and Swan, and both of them stated that all the living beings are made up of cells, and the cells are the structural and functional units of life. One more scientist, Rudolf Virchow, he added one more statement in the cell theory, that is omnicellula acellula, means all the cells arise from the pre-existing cells. So that was all from the previous class, and we have also discussed about the prokaryotic and eukaryotic cells, that the primitive cells which are lacking nucleus, they are considered as what? Prokaryotic cells, like examples bacteria, and the cells which are having true nucleus in them, they are considered as what? Eukaryotic cells. And whatever organisms you are observing in your surrounding, even few of the protozoans, means the protistans, they are also falling in the category of eukaryotes. So basically, as you all are aware that all cells are having three basic features. The first one is what? The outer boundary of the cell, that is known as cell membrane. Inside the cell membrane, the fluid, that is known as cytoplasm, and the controlling center of the cell, that is known as nucleus or its genetic material. So we will discuss about the first one, that is what? Cell membrane. So many of you are facing some problem in cell membrane, as when we are going to make the structure of cell, we are going to make an outline like this for the animal cell, as we all are knowing this fact that the outer layer or the boundary of animal cell is known as what? Cell membrane. But when we are going to consider about the plant cell, then in plant cell one additional layer is there, that is known as what? The cell wall, and its structure is what? It's what? Bilayer, means having two layers, the external one and internal one. For an example, suppose if I tell you, or if I will ask you to make a small outline of a house, then you will make like this. This may be what? A small door, and here maybe some of you will make a window. So do you think that the structure of house is like same whatever it is observing in the figure? Absolutely not, because now you are having an idea that this small lining, this outline is not so thin because the walls of the houses are thick, the external side or internal side. Or if I will show you this box, so you can see this box means if we are considering about the structure of cell, so this will be what? The upper surface, lower surface and side wall. If suppose we are going to make the figure of a cell like this, so this is what cell membrane. So this is what the structure of cell, upper surface, lower surface, and these are what? Side walls, like the house. 4 walls are there, roof, then floor, then side walls are there, surrounding walls. So in the same way, when we are considering about cell, this is also like this. And when we consider any of the surface, either this or any of the surface, then it will be what? This will be external surface and this will be what? Internal surface. In the same way, when we are considering this cell, so you will see what? Some layer like this, arranged lipid layer, so why we are calling it a bi-layer or bi-lipid layer? Because one layer is what? External side. This is what, if suppose it is the external one. So this will be what? Internal. These layers are what? Bi-lipid. Actually, lipid are what? Any substances which are not soluble in water, means they are not going to mix. They are like oil. Oil की बात करें तो वैसे ही कुछ substances. And in between these lipid layers, you will see some structures that are what? Protein that will be embedded. If the protein is what? Embedded throughout the lipid layer, that protein is considered as what? Intrinsic protein, means the protein that are embedded throughout the both of the layer. And if the proteins are present only whether in the internal surface or external surface, then such type of proteins are known as what? Extrinsic proteins. So this is what very difficult to understand. That's why in the books it is given in such a way that you can get an idea like this in horizontal manner. These are what? This is what? Head region, and this is what? Tail region. So in the lipid, head region is what? Hydrophilic means hydrophilic head region. This is what? The water loving nature. And when we talk about the tail, this is what? Hydrophobic. So hydrophobia means what? Fear. So these are what? Having the fear of water. Hydro means what? Water. So they do not like water. And the tails are what? Tails are inside, and the head region is what? Situated outside. So this is what? The structure of cell membrane that is given in your book. So this structure will be what? And the same, all the surface, all the area, as I was showing you this box. So this is what the first side, whatever you are observing here, but the whole surface area will be made by this bilipid layer, and the proteins will be embedded in between this bilipid layer. So if the proteins are what? Embedded in both of the layer, so that will be considered as intrinsic protein. And if the proteins are present only if the external surface or in the internal surface, then they will be considered as what? Extrinsic protein. And since the proteins are embedded in the lipid layer, that's why it is considered as what? Fluid mosaic model, and it is the widely accepted theory about the model about the cell membrane that was given by two scientists, Singer and Nicholson. So fluid mosaic model is a cell membrane model proposed by two scientists, Singer and Nicholson, in which it is stated that the cell membrane is made up of bilipid layer, and some protein molecules will be embedded in this bilipid layer. That's why it is the mosaic model. And fluid, since water can flow inside and outside and they are performing some wavy movement, that's why it is known as what? Fluid mosaic model. So what the questions that can be asked from this topic: who proposed fluid mosaic model? Then Singer and Nicholson. Or which is the most accepted model of cell membrane? That is again fluid mosaic model. In this model, the layer is what? Bilipid layer. The hydrophobic head, the circular area will be what? Outside, and the tail will be what? Facing together, facing each of them inside. This tail is what? Hydrophobic, and head is what? Hydrophilic. So that is what the cell membrane structure. Now we will discuss some more questions that are very important from this chapter. Many of you were facing problem in this topic. What do we mean by hypertonic solution, or isotonic solution? So from the name itself, hypo means what? Less. Hyper means more, and iso means what? Similar. And tonicity is what? It is the tendency of the solution, where the amount of solute is considered. Like when we talk about solution, it means what? We know that it is the combination of solute as well as a solvent. So hypotonic solution means the amount of solute will be less. Hypertonic solution, it is a solution in which solute as well as solvent will be present, but the solute amount will be what? More. And here isotonic solution, solute plus solvent, but the concentration of solute will be what? Similar concentration. For an example, if suppose we are having a beaker or bowl or container having a solution, you can see here, and this solution is what? Hypotonic. We are going to place a cell in this solution. Suppose we are going to place a cell here. So what will be the impact? This is what? A cell. So what will be the impact on cell when we are going to place it in a hypotonic solution? Two conditions may be there. The cell may be plant cell or animal cell. Cell may be plant cell or animal cell. So when we consider about the plant cell, this was the solution, and now you will see the cell is going to what? Swell. Cell will plant cell will swell. When we consider about the animal cell, so this animal cell is going to what? Swell, and finally it will burst. Finally, the animal cell will what? It will burst. And why this is happening? Because when we have placed the cell in this hypertonic solution, since the amount of solute was less, so the water moves inside the cell. This process is known as what? Endosmosis. Endosmosis means, osmosis is a process where water is going to move from the high concentration towards the low concentration. In this solution, amount of solute was less, so it means what? The amount of solvent will be what? More. Cell की बात करें, inside the cell, so the amount of solute was more and the amount of solvent was less, and that's why the water keep moving inside the cell, and which causes the rupturing of the bursting of the animal cell. But in case of plant, the cell is not going to burst because of the presence of cell wall. This process where water is going to move inside the cell from the external medium, this process is known as what? Endoosmosis or endosmosis. Now what will happen in a hypertonic solution? In hypertonic solution, if suppose it is what? A beaker, and this is what? A hypertonic solution having the amount of solute more, and we are going to place a cell here, suppose a plant cell, and here we are going to place an animal cell. So what will happen now? Since the amount of water is less outside and inside, the concentration of water is more, so the water will move from cell to the external medium, and that's why the cell will shrink. This is known as what? Exosmosis. Exosmosis, where water is going to move from the cell into the external medium. This is known as exosmosis. In this case, the animal cell is going to shrink, but the plant cell, this process is known as what? Plasmolysis. Plasmolysis, where plasma means the fluid part of the cell that is present inside the cell membrane. Since the fluid is going to remove, so the cell membrane is going to move away from the cell wall, and that's what it is known as what? Plasmolysis. This is what? Exosmosis. Example in plant cell and animal cell, when both of them are going to kept in the hypertonic solution. Isotonic solution means each and everywhere the concentration will be similar, means inside the cell and outside the cell, so there will be no such type of movement of water. Not endosmosis means the movement of water will occur in both of the cells and solution, but neither the cell is going to shrink nor it is going to burst. So that is what hypertonic, hypotonic and isotonic solution. Endosmosis and exosmosis. Endosmosis is what? Movement of water inside the cell from the external medium. Exosmosis is what? Movement of water from the cell to the external medium. And when we consider about similar process, that is known as what? Endocytosis and exocytosis. Two more processes are there: endocytosis and exocytosis. So endo means what? Inside. Exo means what? Outside. So if the movement of substances are going to occur inside the cell, that is known as what? Endocytosis. Perhaps you are having an idea how the amoeba is going to capture food. Means food is going to enter inside the amoebal cell. That's why this process is known as what? Endocytosis. During the removal of waste substances or undigested matter, amoeba is going to throw out the waste matter. That is what? Exocytosis. means the removal of substances from cell to the external medium, that is known as what? Exocytosis. Few more important questions are there in your book, that what are the specific features of the cell organelles present inside the cytoplasm or inside the plasma, that you are having an idea. Mitochondria, it is known as what? Powerhouse of cell. Why? Because the cellular respiration means the oxidation of glucose is going to happen inside the mitochondria, and the result, a lot of energy is going to release. That's why the mitochondria is considered as what? Powerhouse of cell. When we consider about the plant cell, you know that plant cells are having what? Chloroplast in them, means plastids, the green pigment chlorophyll, and that's why these chloroplast or chlorophyll is known as what? The kitchen of the plant, because there the synthesis of food is going to happen. Then we talk about the ribosomes, a very important organelle which is responsible for the protein synthesis. So this organelle is what? Responsible for food protein synthesis. Then lysosome, that are considered as what? Suicidal bags of the cell. Why? Because they are containing some lytic enzyme. Lytic means some breaking enzyme which are very harmful for the cell. So since lysosomes are going to perform the function to engulf and digest foreign materials, but sometimes what happened? The wall of lysosome is going to rupture and they are going to ingest the same cell they are present. That's why they are known as what? Suicidal bags for the cell. Then one more important point is what? Mitochondria in animal cell and plant cell, and plastids as well in the plant cell. Both of them are having what? Their own genetic material, DNA, and both of them are made up of two layers of membrane. Since we were discussing here that cell membrane is what? Bilayer, having two layers, external and internal bilipid layer. In the same way, when we are going to see the mitochondria and plastid, both of them are what? Bilayered organelles present in the cell, and both of these organelles are having what? Their own genetic material, DNA. That's why some of the time they are considered as what? Cell within the cell. So that's what all from the today. We will discuss some more points and a few more questions in the next video. So till then, we are going to meet in the next video. Take care of yourself, be safe, and keep studying.